Hey, here we are. Everybody's in, nice and quick. Managed to get the old technology going. How is everyone?
All right, mate. Apart from I've got this ball patch going on now.
Just keep your chin up, mate. Keep your chin up, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. No problem at all.
I'd rather one at the back than what's happening with me. It seems to be disappearing further and further back up the forehead.
Brutal, mate. I like getting old.
Well, yeah. I think I'm the oldest here of the three of us. Like, so you know, it's keeping the grey out of my beard just about somewhere along the line, sort of thing. So, all right, I mean, I can see we got a fair few people kind of coming in, so we'll probably just jump straight in, guys, if that's all right. Welcome to Unbreakable Strength Stories, the special edition, the World's Strongest Man edition. So, what we're planning on doing is kind of going through the events for the qualifiers, if you like, sort of thing, looking at the different athletes, kind of making our predictions and kind of, you know, just generally chatting about who we think's going to get through and what the results are going to be. I mean, obviously, we deliberately haven't kind of collaborated in any way as to what our predictions are, sort of thing. So, you know, it's each of our personal opinions. And, you know, I mean, certainly, you know, I can speak from my perspective that I sort of looked at it as just purely based on the events in the qualifier, not what I think of the athlete as a whole. Because obviously we all know that, you know, the choice of events or the events that you're going up against can drastically change the outcome of any competition, sort of thing. So it's the same with kind of World's Strongest Man. I mean, some of you would have been able to see the you know, the kind of the live feed and stuff like that, you know, yesterday, and obviously all the information's all out there now and everyone knows what the groups are. So just to kind of introduce myself, anyone that doesn't know, I'm Aidy Monks from Unbreakable Promotions. See Rob Stiff, who works with me on Unbreakable, is here with us as well, and obviously the man himself, Mr. 3D Strength is Dale's here with us. I know you've got a few boys that are out there that are all going to start in about an hour or so now, isn't it? It's not long till they get going. So I mean, have you spoken to Gavel Parr at all this morning? Or
I spoke to Parr yesterday. I rang him on the phone. It was actually just before the groups got announced. He was just telling me you just take me through all the events. Obviously, I've had videos and stuff off Gav through Hicksy and Gav. I've been speaking to them too. Speaking to Gav about the events, and then he sent me over some loading. Obviously, they've got the it's all on soft sand, so it's not like nice, hard, solid sand. It's actually soft sand they're running. So, like, I seen some comments in there about the loading saying, oh, it's a bit light. It's only up to like 130, 140. But you get a 150-kilo man running on sand with 5 different implements, one being an anvil. The sandbag they're using, Parr said to me, is like, imagine a 160-kilo sandbag, but it's half full with rubber and it's slippy. So it's like a floppy bag. That's what it is. He said it's horrific.
I mean, I haven't done that loading, obviously, but I mean, I know the SCL final, the first day is on the beach in the sand, and that is, do you know what I mean? That is just as someone that's helping out, you know, carrying the kit around and stuff like that, utterly sapping of your energy in the sun. It's massive. It will make a massive difference.
Your legs will just get wiped out, and then there's these. Have you seen the rogue sort of logs they've made where it's like 3 logs put together, and it shortens, so you've got to pick it up. So then obviously we were talking about how to pick them up and things like that. So that's going to be 5 implements spaced out between, like, I think it's like 5 and 15 meters, whatever you got to load on a platform. And then the deadlift itself, it's actually off a deficit, the deadlift. It's quite low. Yeah, I'll have to send you the photo over it, because I got a video of Gav, and then Parr went to me, but they're going to put a mat underneath that as well. So it looks at about 6 inches or so, 6 or 7 inches. So it's actually quite a low pickup as well. So it's going to be quite hard for the taller guys, especially when you're trying to get it on like a pivot. So you're sort of like using your body weight to help you pick it up and everything, because obviously like a normal deadlift, you've got to sit back anyway a bit more. But actually getting down and then trying to sit in a pivot position, it's going to be quite difficult. So that should be fun. And then the log ladder, I'm not sure if the log ladder's going up to 180 like Europe's was. I think it is. I can't 1,000,000% confirm that. I can't remember. And then obviously we've got the Conan's wheel. I do believe that's about 230 kilos, Parr said, but it's quite short armed and all the weight's quite central in the middle. So you know what I mean? Yeah, the closer you are to it, the harder it is. And then obviously we've got the kettlebell toss. I think that was 8 kettlebells that. So that's quite a lot to go through. And then obviously they're at the stone decider.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the video that they put out. You know, they were kind of training. Kit familiarization or whatever sort of thing, and saw that kind of rogue 3-log thing. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. You know, I mean, it's a bit unwieldy, but I guess it's the weight as well, isn't it? Of, you know, how hard is it to actually kind of do it? And same with the Conan's wheel. I thought exactly the same. You know, I thought actually, you know, that's a slightly different pick. You know, is in the proximity to the weight, because you see some of them have actually got a really long arm on them, and you can kind of get quite a long way away from the weight, and it really makes a difference.
Yeah, well, it's like it's that strongman though, mate. It's like I have this sort of discussion with people about kit. So, like, my Conan's wheel that I use might be completely different to the one you've got. My Viking press might feel like I've got 200 kilo worth of plates on it, but I could go to another gym where 140 kilos worth of plates feels exactly the same. So that's strongman, and that's why I think the likes of, like, the lads who've been around the block a lot, like Paul, Evers, Mateusz Kaliskowski, those sort of guys who have competed around the world in loads of different shows, I think these sort of group events suit them quite a lot, because it doesn't matter what kit they use, because they adapt to it. Novikov's is exactly the same as well. He adapts very well to whatever kit you give him as well. And I think that's where experience is very, very important. Like, obviously we'll get into the groups, but you'll get a lot of newcomers and things like that, and they're amazing athletes who won't be a world's strongest man for no reason. But Loz says it a lot. He talks about experience and how important it is. And I'm a massive believer in competition experience.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, different situations, like you say, lads who've never done loading on sand, like the big, odd, awkward implements that you'll see, and things like at the SCL shows and things like that. Some of these guys, like Evars and people like that, really are that experience, and I think they'll do very well.
I think that's a good point. The whole being on the SCL tour, where, you know, Marcel makes no bones about a lot of his location selection is based on what it's going to look like on telly. So, you know, if I think, Heidi, about the one we went out to, Romania, where we're in that funny little heritage village, and they're stood on gravel and mud doing the log press, and, you know, all of that kind of baskets of eggs, all of that kind of weird stuff that you do there is a really good grounding for when it's not your standard kind of, not formulaic. That's not doing it justice, but you know what I mean. When it's a bit out there in these big comps, that stuff is really going to stand you in good stead.
Yeah, well, some of the ones, the SCL ones I've done it in, I think, Johannesburg in Finland as well. And like, one of the loading races was actually 4 90-kilo mini fridges that you had to pick up and load over 15 meters. Do you know that stuff like that?
Yeah.
And like, if you even have one experience in dealing with not a keg, not a sandbag, but when you're used to picking these things up, where you look at it and you go, well, that's a bit strange, isn't it? That's why this event familiarization is very important for these guys to go out a few days early.
I mean, you and I, Dale, have had this conversation previously about people competing, and this is true from novice all the way through to pro. Is that, you know, and Ivars is a really good example of that. Is the more you get out there and the more that you compete, the more experience you have, the more you get used to adapting on the day to the equipment, you know. And it's a skill that, you know, that isn't about strength, that's about knowledge and actually kind of having a problem put in front of you and being able to solve it quickly. I mean, I guess in a way it's, you know, it's a little bit like the mystery event that some people kind of do. It's having that kind of inherent knowledge and understanding of how to solve problems within strongman that enables you to kind of make a good job of it, sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, it's a massive part of it.
Throw it in a beach when it's like 30 odd degrees, whatever it is, pile that on top of it, it just makes it even more mental, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's some of the big boys are going to struggle in that sand. I mean, you know, I know Bibby's lost a bit of timber, like, but I think, you know, doing that loading race in sand, he's gonna feel the pain. I'm sure most of them will, sort of thing, like. But yeah, it's going to be, you know, I can't wait for it, to be honest. I've got my spreadsheet open, ready to refresh and kind of see how things go on and all that.
I'm in 3 different group chats with people who are there.
Yeah, my phone will be red hot messaging people to try and find out what's going on in the background.
I'll keep you updated, mate. Don't worry about it. Whatever I know, you know.
Nice one. Okay, so I mean, should we kind of just jump into the first group? So what I'll do is I'll just read out who's in the group, just in case there's anyone watching that hasn't seen it. I mean, it's out there, but so group 1: Konstantin Janasha, Pablo Cordiaca, Paolo Dwyer, Tom Stoltman, Bobby Thompson, Eddie Williams. You know, there's some big names in there. I mean, we'll get to some of the groups later on, but you know, it's a tough group. I mean, any group that's got Tom Stoltman in is a tough group. Do you know what I mean? Because I mean, it's really interesting. And before I kind of go into my predictions, I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about, you know, Tom obviously kind of peaks for worlds, you know, and is you know, as an experienced guy, you know, he's 2 times world's strongest man. Part of me wondered whether he would do enough to get there, but not necessarily win the group. Because let's be honest, if Tom goes into a stone off with anybody, he's winning that.
I think
so it's a case of, you know, maybe event 1, event 2, go full power, get some points on the board, and then just watch it from there, and kind of take an attitude that, you know, I'm not gonna empty the gas tank on this. I'm just gonna get myself in, and I've got a banker event if I'm in second or third. I mean, even if Tom was in third place, I just don't see a scenario where he doesn't win that stone off.
Yeah, I think the way I sort of looked at it for Tom was, he's 1,000,000% out of anyone in that group there. If you've got him in to be honest with you, if you put him against, I think the only person who'll give him a run for money on a stone off is Trey. I think pretty much anyone would totally agree with that, because it's just the record, the reputation speaks for itself. But for me, with Tom, it's weird because when these events got released, I looked at the qualifier groups, the events, and I went, Pavlo and Novikov will have that absolutely boxed off when I looked at the events, right? Straight away, you know what I mean? And then as obviously Pavlo's got Tom, I've looked at it this way. So you think about it with these events, loading, a log ladder and a Conan's wheel, Pavlo realistically could possibly be the best in the world at all those 3 for speed and athleticism. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Right? So if Tom can, say, for example, keep up with him and get a second and all them, Tom will win the toss, the kettlebell toss, and Tom will win the deadlift if he has to. Bobby Thompson's in the deadlift, but I think Pavlo could possibly drop more points on the deadlift than what Tom would. I do believe on every single event, Tom can be guaranteed a second and all them, and that's enough to get him through because of the points which Pavlo could possibly lose on the deadlift. Maybe. That's just a maybe. But I'm looking at that group and thinking, whatever Tom does, if he pushes it full force and tires himself out, which I don't think he'll do, if he gets that stone off, I think he, in his brain, because he's switched on, he knows that he's going to get there anyways. So looking at that group, Bobby, we've got to think about as well, he's a terrific log lifter. He's a terrific deadlifter. I can't say I've seen him much quick on the loading and on the Conans or on the toss. You know what I mean? So I think that's only fair. Eddie Williams, I imagine he's absolutely fantastic at like the toss and things like that. Par's very well rounded. Loading, deadlift, log ladder, Conans, and them. They are not bad events for Patrick either. They could actually be okay.
I mean, it's interesting with Par is that, you know, I mean, I don't have Par in my...
And Janasha, for God's sake, you know what I mean? Like, we've got a guy there who's a multiple-time world's strongest man finalist and Europe's strongest man podiums and things like that. Honestly, the group is mental. Like, and I just forgot about that there. So it's not going to be easy.
I mean, the thing is, though, is that the dynamic will be, you know, you talk about, you know, Tom being in the top 2 and stuff like that. I mean, you look at something like Conan's World, for example. I again agree. I think Pablo will win it. I think he'll win that event. But it's whether someone like Par or someone like that can get in between him and Tom. That's the interesting dynamic there, is to kind of, you know, because there are some really good events for some of the other guys in that group as well. So it'll be, you know, like Bobby on the log ladder. I mean, the bloke's a beast overhead sort of thing, you know, as he, you know, that kind of interaction of people coming in and possibly, you know, I mean, I'll go out and sort of say what I think, but for me, I think I've got Pavel Kordiaka winning the group. That's my personal opinion, I think. And that's based around Tom kind of, you know, going on, doing what he needs to do to get through to the final. I got Tom and Bobby in the stone off, and obviously Tom winning it. But I've got Par as I put in a kind of dark horse kind of category. Someone that I think that is going to mix it up and is going to cause problems. Do you know what I mean? For other people in the group, I don't necessarily. I mean, you might get into the stone off, but you know, that's my pick. I guess is Pablo and Tom to go through.
I think everyone in that group. I think Pablo fancies chances for winning, but I think everyone else will be watching that group thinking, right, we're going to be looking for a stone off here. But as an athlete, you're thinking, I hope Tom wins this group, because at least if you're against anyone else apart from Tom in that group, you'll fancy your chances. You know what I mean? You know you've got a better shot. So, but I'm going to go with you on that one. I do agree on that one. It's Tom and Pavlo, whichever way it goes, whoever gets in the stone off, whatever. But I'd agree with that, Tom and Pavlo on that one.
I've got the same. I've got Tom to win, based on just the almost the Brian Shaw effect of winning the whole thing twice. He ain't gonna want to turn off. He's gonna want to put down a marker and win his group. And then I've got Pav just based on form at Europe's. You know, he was just so well conditioned.
He's a super athlete, mate.
Yeah,
he's phenomenal.
Yeah, and just all of those loading events and all of the athletic stuff, particularly if it's on sand. You know, that gas in the tank, that conditioning is going to serve him really well on that. But I agree. I think Bobby and Power are my outliers there. I think they could cause an upset if one of them just has a bad day. I think they could ride in on their dark horse and take that second spot.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. It could happen. At the end of the day, it's world's strongest man. They're all there for a reason, aren't they? So there's it's quite hard when you go through these groups, because you don't want to sound dismissive to, you know what I mean? But no, I do agree with that one, lads, and I think we're all pretty much agreeing on that one.
Yeah.
Tom and Pavlo are our favourites to go through, but we're not knocking Par or Bobby maybe sneaking in there, and, maybe causing an upset.
Yeah.
Really good comment from Jake in the comments at the bottom, and he said it depends on conditioning. Absolutely. I've been watching some of his YouTube videos of training for this, and on the days when he's not mentally and physically on point, he has a real mental block. So I think it's his mental conditioning as well as his physical conditioning. You know, if he don't turn up at the races, I've seen him do a fail on some relatively, for him, like deadlift ladders and stuff in training, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? Is peaking at the right time.
Yeah, I think with Tom, Worlds is his thing. Adrian pointed at the start, he trains all year round for this. And any other competition in the world, I'd say, yeah, I agree. But with Worlds, it's weird. It's that's Tom's home now. I feel like he knows that's his. So I think even that confidence, you can even just tell from the videos and that, he's just confidence is oozing. I don't know, like Loz pointed out before, that man can get strong very, very, very fast if he needs to, and it's mad.
And we're talking about conditioning. Tom at 80% is still better than the 8 next best people, right? Because he's just an absolute king.
Yeah. Mate, I've seen him come to my gym after he'd been on a bender in Amsterdam, watching Rangers. He'd done a 200 kilo Atlas stone for a double, and then just basically Viper pressed a 160 log, and he looked like he couldn't be asked.
Yeah, well, I couldn't even do that on my best day after the biggest peak in the world, let alone after a bender in Amsterdam. I think it's fair to say that Tom, and there's no disrespect or criticism to Tom in any way, but I think, as you say, Worlds he's all in. That's his focus all year round. And he goes to other competitions, but I think he's maybe at 70-80%. He's not in the same headspace as he is for Worlds. I think there's comfort there. He knows what it is, likes the format, and it kind of suits him. And he knows that he's going to perform, and that confidence is there for him. So, which is great. So I think we're all agreed on Group 1. So we'll jump on to Group 2. So Group 2 is I'm Bibby, Big Gav, Fadi Al-Masri, Tom Evans, Alexei Novikov, and Luke Stoltman. Now this is another difficult one. There is no easy groups here. I mean, you kind of look at.
I don't even want to talk about Group 3.
I know. I've gone backwards and forwards on that so many times. It's like, oh my god. Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm Bibby's been out for a while. We haven't really seen him do much. I mean, the guy's crazy strong. Do you know what I mean? He might come in and be an absolute revelation. And kind of put in a massive performance.
I mean, he's dropped some clay. It just depends what his condition is going to be like in that heat, really. But he is leaned up massively from where he did that log record. He's
an unknown entity, I suppose, at this sort of world's strongest man stage, isn't he? Because it's not like where we've seen him do a few Giants live shows. I think it was his last full Giants live. It was the Royal Albert Hall, wasn't it? Where he got a podium, I think.
Yeah.
But like you say, because the days are so split, you think about it today, the first event's at 1, the second event's at 4, whatever it is, and the last event's at 10. You know what I mean? The likes of Terry Holland used to absolutely thrive off stuff like that, because he told me he could just switch off in between events.
Yeah.
And I think the likes of some athletes, especially the more experienced athletes, like we look at this group here. Gav's been the world's strongest man. I think this will be his 4th time now.
Yeah.
Novikov's been there many times and won it. Luke Stoneman's been there in these horrible positions where he gets a really bad group. Like, what was it, a few years ago? Didn't he have Kevin Ferris in the group with Novikov and was it Bobby Thompson?
Yeah, I think so.
All in one group, you know what I mean? So Luke has been in this position before, and he can deal with the pressure of world's strongest man to get in these positions. Novikov, for me, with these events, I do not see anyone beating Novikov in that group with them events. Personally, looking at them, like, I just think he potentially could win every single one of those events. And if you know Novikov, he does not go half-assed either.
That's exactly what I was about to say, is that he, you know, we were talking about with Tom whether he plays a bit of tactics. I don't think Alexei has that.
No, he doesn't have
that mode. It's all in. It's, you know, it's full power on everything every time. You know, and you know, he's an amazing athlete. Do you know what I mean? He can do that, and that works for him, sort of thing. But yeah. I mean, obviously you've kind of got Fanil Masri's new guy, relatively. I know he's working with Loz now, sort of thing. But you know, he's relatively new to scene. It's his first Worlds. You know, so really, it's for him, it's you know, an experience, soaking it up, learning, developing, you know, and all that sort of stuff. Like, and you know, and I'm sure that he hasn't gone into, you know, the competition with anything above and beyond that. Now, for me, the one, I mean, before I get into any predictions, but like Tom Evans is for me is a guy that I think will do a lot better than people think.
Scary man. You've got to think he won the Arnold's Amateur, the Shaw Classic Amateur, right? But and then you think about it, right? And then he's went to the Arnold's his first year and come 5th in that, and he's beat some top guys. This man ain't no joke. Like, he's like the Kane Francis of America at the moment. You know what I mean? Where people understand, like, if this is a serious competitor, this, and like I've got it on my notes here about this group. I've got Novikov number 1, and then I've got shootout Luke, Gav, Tom.
Yeah. Exactly the same, mate. Exactly the same. Yeah. I mean, I've got Tom as my dark horse.
I could not pick who is going through from the stone off in that group. I genuinely can't pick, because I do think between them 3, Luke, Gav, and Tom, with all those events, I'm looking at them thinking, like, I've even sort of wrote down like where I think they're going to come on the positions on each event, but then I'm looking at it going, have I got that right? Have I got that wrong? You know what I mean? I just think in this position, Luke has massive experience in this position, so that's a massive factor for him. He's a great stone lifter as well. Gav doesn't really have any weak events coming up now because his conditioning's on point. And then obviously we've got Tom. I can't say I've seen him do at the Stones, but from watching him at the Arnold's and stuff like that, and watching him when I was over in America, because I competed at the same time as him last year, another great athlete. But I do agree with what someone's saying there. I would say Luke is possibly the best stone lifter out of all them 3.
Yeah.
So I would possibly give the advantage to Luke, but at the same time, I would never count out
fire, mate. Gav's got the fire.
Not count out Gav or Tom in this in a million years, because I know where Gav's head is. Speaking to him yesterday, and he's ready to go. As soon as that group got announced, he sent me it over and he was like, "Let's go! I can't wait for this." And I'm like, "That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear."
Yeah, I mean,
it's just hard with a couple of your mates as well, isn't it?
I know.
It's horrible,
you know
man.
I mean, my head and my heart are connecting a little bit on this one, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? And I agree with the point about Luke. I think Luke's got the experience. He knows how to manage the situation, and I'm pretty much sure he will be in the stone off. I don't know. Part of me, and I don't know whether it's my heart getting in the way, is that I know how much. I know it means a lot to everybody, but I know how much it means to Gav himself, and I just
Gav's
wonder
an amazing stone lifter, and he doesn't get credit for it.
Yeah, no, exactly, mate. I don't know that kind of inner fire. I don't know. I maybe I'm being unfair about it, like, do you know what I mean? But for me, I've gone obviously for Alexei to go through as the group winner, then Tom and Luke in the stone off with Tom Evans as the dark horse. But I've got Gav to go through on the stone off. That's
I've just got him capital letters shootout Luke, Gav, Tom.
Yeah.
Full on shootout.
Yeah. So I've got Novikov, and I think there'll be daylight between Novikov and the rest of the group, because he doesn't have a moderated switch. And just
I think that's fair on them events, mate. Like I said at the start here, when I seen those events, I looked at it and I went, Novikov, I don't care who's in his group, I wouldn't care who it was. He wins that. He wins those events.
Yeah, and then I think it's a shootout, like everybody said, between Gav, Tom, and Luke. You know, Tom's the dark horse, but he's coming in hot off a good run. I think Iron Bibby yet to be proven in a full comp over that long duration. Is it still a bit of a one-trick pony on the static lifts above head and all that kind of stuff? We're yet to see. Could be proven wrong there, but I think on form, it's Novikov, daylight between the next three, and then a couple of outliers there that could throw an upset in if things go wrong somewhere.
Yeah, the reason why I haven't really spoke much about Bibby is it's not because I don't doubt his work rate or potential, whatever. It's just, like we're saying there, we're going off people who've kind of proven it kind of in full competitions over a longer sort of period of time or whatever, or people who've been at Worlds. But I just feel like, especially with the likes of like the Conan's wheel and the Loden, I think they could cost him points. I know he's quick, I know he's not slow, but I just kind of feel like that, especially with the likes of like Gav and that, because with the big awkward implements, I feel like Gav's size, he can grab hold of them a little bit easier, he can shift. Deadlift, it's a weird one with the deadlift because it's a machine deadlift, so most people will breathe at the top. You've got to breathe at the bottom. You've got to wait a couple of seconds to come in. So it's just setting, resetting, where you'll get a lot of lads, like especially Pa. Pa likes to do a deadlift, but he'll go as fast as he can. It's not quite a touch and go, but he'll fire it up. You know what I mean? So it just depends. I don't know, but this is going to be a tasty, tasty group. This lads.
Yeah. We're talking about tasty groups. Let's move on to group 3, which is.
Do we have to do this one? Can we just forget this one? Because
could be anyone,
right? How the hell do you give a top 2 out of that?
I know.
Like you've got right. You look at like the lesser known, unless you're sort of into like quite deep into strongman. You've got the guy who's won the OSG. You've got Matt Ragg, who's 5 times New Zealand's strongest man, who come 3rd at OSG, and he's got like a 440 deadlift and a 200 kilo squat in there. And then you've got Graham Hicks in there, who's like former Britain's strongest man, British powerlifting record holder, and he's like the biggest monstrosity of a genuine strength human you'll ever meet in your life.
Raw power. That's
and
what
then
it is, just raw power.
You've got Hooper, Matthias, and Evers.
I know. It's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy. So
that's the group.
Yeah, from a perfectly selfish point of view, when I saw this group, I was a little bit gutted because I was like, there's 2. I mean, all the guys are great, but I looked at this group and I thought we're going to lose a really amazing person out of this group that I think personally would do well in the final. Do you know what I mean? Sort of thing. So it's a really, really tough one. You know, I mean, you've got kind of the Arnold's 1-2 in that group. You know, you've got Avars that's not been off the podium for God knows how long, quite some time. Yeah, just quite recently 3rd at Europe's.
Super consistent. Super consistent.
He has not been off the podium since STO England last year.
Really?
Yeah, it's not a surprise. It's not a surprise. And then even like you look at there, Hicksy, Hooper, Matthias, Avars have all been to a World Strongest Man final. Matthias has podiumed absolutely everywhere in the world. I know he's come back from an injury, but he's just coming back from an injury and finished 2nd at the Arnold Classic. He's no joke. He never will be. He's an absolute. He's the Terminator. You know what I mean? He's nearly the complete package of a strongman. Like obviously we know with the deadlift with the issues in the past, but literally Kaliskowski is literally the blueprint of an absolute made in a lab sort of strongman, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, it's almost a little bit of a kind of joke in a way that he could actually do really badly in a deadlift potentially and win the other 4 events.
I remember at the Arnold's, I think it was 220. I think he won 4 of the events and got like 3 world records. He still comes 2nd. I was like, it was something mad like that.
Mad in it, sort of thing. So, I mean, when I was going through this group, I was looking at it and I was literally like say. I was thinking, yeah, but what about Graham Hicks and Spencer Rett and all these? Every time I started to try and formulate a picture of what I thought it was, then I looked at the list again. And I was like, oh shit, I've not thought about that person. And
I'll tell you who I've put down as winning each event in this group. I'm not going to give you my 2nds and 3rds because of that mixed up. I don't even know what I've written. So I've got loading Kaliskowski to win the loading.
Yeah.
I've got Hicksy to win the deadlift.
Yeah.
I've got Hooper to win the log.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got Avars to win the Conans, and then I've got Matthias to win the kettlebell toss.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I'm not saying everyone
yeah. So,
has to agree with me, by the way. This is
no,
what I've written down.
no, it's yeah. I mean, I had Hicksy down for the log ladder purely just on. I mean, I know he didn't have the greatest of times at Europe's.
Oh, that means nothing. I just feel like Hooper's a little bit quicker. Will be a little bit quicker in between.
Yeah, I could see.
I might be wrong there, by the way. You know what I mean? I love Hicksy, you know what I mean, with pal, but I just feel like Hooper. Did you watch him at the Rogue on the York into the log?
Yeah.
I feel like he's got that kind of wild viper pressy power, kind of Mateus did. I would generally have Mateus higher up on the log, but coming back from injury, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the only bit.
I mean, Avars is no slouch on the log either. Let's be honest.
He's not. No, he's not.
Well, and also coming back to our previous point about all of that experience of competing in weird and wonderful places. I mean, Ivers is the absolute master in that group of having done that.
Mate, he's the most underrated strongman on the planet.
Absolutely. And his warm-up, I love his warm-up, mate. I love him. Big, strong Latvian cigarette, puts it out, goes out and smashes the field. Absolutely. Absolutely love it. Yeah.
Good mental, isn't he? Right, so go on then. You two can go first, I'm going last.
So, okay.
I'm going to upset someone here, you know, and I've actually wrote it down and I'll give you my reasons behind it as well. But I'm going to upset someone.
Okay, so I struggled to get past Mitch Hooper and Mateus for 1-2. Now, I'm saying that, and as I was saying it, I'm going to contradict myself and say I think Ivers could get in there as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so, I mean, I don't know. I think Ivers is a better stone lifter than Mateus. I don't know.
I think Ivers is the best stone lifter in that group.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying is that if he can get himself...
Tom has openly said Ivers is the hardest person he's had to do a stone off with.
And then,
who said that?
Tom.
That dusty 200, that dusty brand new 200 at SEO England last year.
Ivers is a good stone lifter, and I feel like it'll suit him better being slowed down as well. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I feel like with Hicksy as well, I feel like instead of a fast run, I feel like heavier stone would suit the likes of Graham Hicks also as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, go ahead. You go. No, I nearly went there.
So for me, it's 1, 2, 3 is Mitch, Mateus, Ivers. I'm making this decision right now, and I think Ivers will win the stone off. That's where I'm going with it. That's a decision I just made right this second.
So
this is the worst one.
So I've gone for Mitchell to win it based on form and what I've seen him doing in the gym.
Fair.
I've gone for Ivers in second just because he's a grafter and he hasn't got a weakness. He hasn't got a weakness. He's just good at everything. And then I've got Hicksy almost joined at the sphincter with him, that close that he's almost inside if it comes to a stone off. That's my 3.
Who wins the stone off then?
Ivers. By a gnat's cock, like literally the smallest of margins.
So I've gone Hooper to win the group. I feel like you've just said there, form, athleticism, strength. I think you're very rarely going to get an international competition where Mitch Hooper isn't in the top 3 on any event really now. Like, I think he's that good. You know what I mean? I think he's a great athlete. And that just can't be denied. And then, fucking hell, weirdly, you know, with these events, I've got Ivers in second, and I've actually got Graham Hicks in third.
Okay.
I feel like an unchest-infected Graham, with the way his brain is at the moment, he seems to be in a very good mood because I know he sends me long voice notes. He can win the deadlift. He can win the log. Do you know what I mean? So I'm looking at them 2 events there that he can win. He doesn't get enough credit on his loading because I feel like people think he's rubbish and he's not. He's not slow at all.
Not so.
And he's fitter than what you think as well. And he's not bad at tossing. And then Conan's, for me, I don't really know because I just think Avars will win that and I don't know about the rest. But maybe I'm being a bit patriotic there. But I'm going to go Hooper, Avars and Hicksy. And then I'm going to go Avars and Hicksy in a stone off. And then Hicksy's about to put the last stone off. And then Avars puts a fag out in his hand.
A Latvian lung buster on his hand. Yeah, I think we're all pretty similar there, aren't we? There's a few little bits in there, like, but yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I like the sort of like I got someone saying there, Killer Scopsy wins a group and that, right, mate? I'll be honest with you, mate. In that group there, any single one of them lads can win it. The only reason why I'm not spoke about Matt and Spencer as much is because I don't know enough about them, and that's no disrespect to them. They're obviously incredible strongman. More people who've been to OSG and seen them compete in that will know a lot more than me. So I'm just being open and honest about that.
Yeah.
I just feel like the experience of Hicksy, Hooper, Matthias, and Evars plays a massive role in it. And I'm not doubting Matthias Kiliskowski. He's phenomenal. He's one of the best strongmen of our generation. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. It's world's strongest man. Anything can happen, and we're here because we're pundits and we love what we do.
Yeah. Anything can happen. That's the beauty of it, you know. I mean, I think that's why. I mean, for me, this year is probably the most exciting for quite some time, just purely because of exactly the problems that we're having. Is you're looking at every group and like it's just quality and class running from top to bottom down those groups, and that's really exciting. Do you know what I mean? Not to have, you know, I mean, let's be honest. In a few years gone by, we've had, you know, 2 or 3 people that, you know, but you look at the groups and go, he's going through for sure, no doubt about it. You know, and it's kind of, I think that the sport has developed and grown in such a way, and the standard has gone up and up and up, that, you know, you genuinely, as you say, looking at each of these groups and going, he could win it.
Yep.
He could win it. And it's just, it's, you know, I mean, and it's an interesting point. I mean, you say about, you know, like personal experience and knowing some athletes better than others. You know, I mean, obviously my comments around it are driven by that. You know, I've seen a lot of him competing. I know where his head is, you know, the kind of, you know, and all that sort of stuff. And that plays into my decision. So, you know, it's fair comment about Spencer and the others that, you know, are in that group. So, okay, so we're past the let's not call it the group of death, but let's call it the group that shall not be named.
The group of D.
Right, so we're on to group 4. Okay, so you've got Adam Bishop, Kevin Ferris, Ron Heine, Gabriel Reum, Jacob Schoonwinkel, and Brian Shaw.
Yeah, this is a tough group, right? Because you've got Brian's got a point to prove. He had to go to the Stone Off last year to get through into the finals, and this is his final rodeo, right? We all know that. So this is the group I wouldn't want to be in if I was there. And then I think it's pretty well balanced. I think anyone could take this group genuinely.
Yep, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that one. I think looking at it, so I've done my little thing where I've worked out where I think people will come. If Adam overhead was a little bit further developed after his injury, I feel like he's fully recovered overhead at the moment. Like, do you know what I mean? Even from like previous times watching him, and that's just because, mate, it only happened 7-8 months ago.
Yeah,
the tricep injury, you know what I mean? So I don't feel like he's 100% overhead. But honestly, looking at those events, Adam could win the loading, the deadlift with Rauno. I don't know who's going to win out of them two, because you never know, because they're both possibly the best reppy deadlifters in the world with Pavlo and Novichecki. Loading, deadlift, Conan's wheel, and the kettlebell toss. Potentially, Bishop could win every single one of them against all them guys. Potentially.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah.
I kind of feel like how much Bish loses on the log, Brian Shaw won't lose overall on all those 4. I think the only one where Brian might lose a few points on and maybe might be the loading. Maybe because Kevin's in there, Gabriel's in there as well. Maybe, but I just feel like Brian takes this group for consistency throughout every single one of them events.
We talked about experience as well, and you know, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, apart from Mark Felix, who's in the next group, but you know, Brian has been there, done that, seen it. Do you know what I mean? He's won it 4 times. Do you know what I mean? There isn't much more experience that you could possibly bring to that sort of thing. And the bit that Rob touched on, you know, it's like everyone's got that little bit of extra gas in the tank when you know that you ain't got to do it again. You know, and he's, you know, it's a kind of set like drive for 5 and all this sort of stuff. I think his heart will drive him through. You know, I agree with you about Adam. I think if he had the full kind of power on the log, then maybe differently. But I've got Brian down to win this group.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Adam's conditioning will be on point because he's just always well conditioned.
Always.
I think he's an absolute deadlift monster. Whatever variety of deadlift you put on, he's so efficient. You know, he is. You know, if I'm training deadlift, I'm watching videos of Adam deadlift before I go to train, work on the points because he's so functionally efficient. So I think that suits him. But there's just nothing between him and Kevin. Kevin's really well conditioned all the time.
Kevin's the American Adam Bishop.
Yeah, exactly.
In a weird way. In a weird way. You know what I mean? Like they look like super 105ers who aren't 105ers, but they've come from there, you know what I mean? Which they have. And I feel like, do you know what the thing is? I was talking about this morning because we can't count out Gabriel either. We can't count him out. He got to the World's Strongest Man final last year. He did the shortcuts and stuff. I'm sure he went to Rogue as well. You know, he's a very, very good athlete. So in my brain, I was thinking, so I had written down Bishop and Kevin in the stones, but I think Bish takes Kev on the stones. Yeah. Because last year, you think Adam went up against Trey, and I'm sure he loaded the last stone 5 times and still lost. Like, that's some doing. You know what I mean? And Bish is a great stone lifter. Yeah. But I don't want to count Gabriel out either.
Well, I mean, I think we all agreed on the Brian Shaw winning. So my stone off is between Adam Bishop and Gabriel. Now I'm basing that on the fact you got the final, but I don't know if you caught it. Loz did a chat with JF the other day,
and he's apparently fit as fire.
Yeah, and JF was like, "Watch this space." Do you know what I mean? And you know, I mean, I'm not suggesting that he's, you know, if he's going to go and this guy's coming to perform, then that's a big validation sort of thing. So, you know, I'm kind of like, I think he's gonna mix it up. So I kind of got him, but I still have Bish to win the stone off.
Me too.
I'm going to throw a curveball in there, Rano, on the deadlift. Right, that Adam might be efficient, but Rano is he will grizz out anything on that bar and lift it.
He'll just do one more than anyone else.
Yeah, Rano can do any height, any bar, any variation you want, and he'll be the top 2 or 3 in the world, maybe number 1. Like, so yeah. Do you know what? I love Rano as well. He reminds me of like your miserable old uncle, but he's dead nice. You know what I mean?
Imagine him and Ivers together, the sappuccino that would be coming out of there, just the bit of energy.
Yeah, it's unreal. Honestly, but like, it's great to see him back at World's Strongest Man as well. To be honest with you, he brings a lot to the table. Very experienced athlete, great athlete, and like you say, he's still got it. Like, I just feel like Kevin and Bish and Gabriel, I think their athleticism gets them through sort of this one a little bit more, and that's absolutely no disrespect at all, by the way, because Rano's phenomenal strongman. But I don't know, Bishop has been great this year. He had one bad event at Europe's, you know what I mean, which was the log. Apart from that, he was absolutely spot on, and at Brits he ran through it.
Yeah.
So he is on form. I'm going Shaw and Adam.
Me too.
That's what I'm going.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. The only one we haven't spoken about there is Jacko. Now, I think he's the ex-Sharks rugby player. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I believe he is ex-rugby.
So conditioning-wise, he might be on point, but he might be. But he might be an ex-prop, and he might just be really lumpy like me. So I don't know enough about him to comment. So.
Yeah, me neither, really. I'll be honest with you. One of my next goals over the next year, because I'm going to go to Worlds next year, 100%. Hey, come with me, Ed.
Yeah, for sure, mate.
Yeah, there we go. 100%. Is it on the Unbreakable Promotions account, that one, is it? Business trip.
Sorry, you're breaking up, mate. I can't hear what you're saying.
So, I think it's very important for us guys who are involved in the sport in this side of sense, is to look a bit deeper into things. You know what I mean? Looking a bit deeper, because like I've even openly admitted there, I've not really watched a lot of Matt Ragg, Spencer, Jaco and things like that, and they deserve a lot more respect than that. You know what I mean? So, like, that's why if I've not mentioned anyone, lads, and anyone watching it, I do apologise. That's completely on ourselves to do that. But at the end of the day, they're at World's Strongest Man for a reason, because they're amazing athletes and deserve to be there.
Yeah, 100%. You know, and it's
our strapline, our opener. This is just 3 blokes having a chat over a brew. There is no science behind this. You have done the science. You have done the work. You are at World Strongest Man.
You are better than all of us put together, so it doesn't matter what
Yeah,
we say.
exactly. Ignore us.
We should have like a disclaimer at the bottom of the screen saying these opinions are reserved by these three people. Don't take any offence.
These three blokes are full of shit. Don't listen to them. They're just pumping.
Full of monster and modafinilin.
Yeah, yeah. Right, so on to Group 5, so last group. So Jean-Stéphane Corbouf, or Coco as everyone knows him, the immortal himself, Mark Felix, Ethel Ingolfsson Melstead, Trey Mitchell, Evan Singleton, and Paul Smith. So again, you know, I don't think, well, none of the groups are easy, are they? But again, it's, you know, there's yeah,
Right.
it's hard to know what to say.
Bolton effect here, because Trey can finish first, second, or third. If he finishes second or third, going through.
Yeah.
Like, and that's not disrespecting anyone, but I do not know anyone apart from Tom who can challenge that man on the Atlas Stone.
Wait, I mean, the way to look at it is that irrespective, he's taking one of the places from that group. So 2 go from every group. He's taken one of them, whether he's first, second, or third. He's taken one. So there's one left to fight for. But the only way you can actually guarantee it is to win the group.
Yeah, I just think he, and like you've got to think he's won the very well the Arnold Classic. He's super consistent, world's strongest man finalist, and he's a big, massive, nice guy. Have you ever met him?
No, I've never actually met him. I've not spoken to him.
Proper, like, Elvis. He's cool as out, man. He's a monster. Back looks like a stingray. Honestly, back is absolutely massive. And like he was just walking around the Columbus Centre with his little hat on and that, and I don't know if he fucking noticed me off Instagram or something. Do you know when someone gives you the look and he's like that? And I'm like, are you Trey? You alright, mate? He's like, hi, mate. Are you alright? It's got a little photo of him, and we walk through and I chat with him for 10 or 15 minutes. And like, I'll be honest with you, he's such a nice guy. He was just asking me about, he must like follow Tyson Fury, and he was like, so what's Morecambe like? Well, I live about 2 hours away, but it's all right. It's like a sea sort of town in a bay. You know, he's asking loads of random questions about English people.
Some seagulls.
It's loads of seagulls everywhere. But no, for me, Trey gets through that group.
Yeah.
And not easy but I feel like we've got the Novikov effect here from Evan. Evan will go absolutely balls to the walls, and there's nothing else you can say to him. He does not know what first, second gear is. He'll be straight in it. And I feel like he's due a bit of luck, Evan.
Yeah.
He's had a tough run the last couple of years, hasn't he? Do you know what I mean? Things haven't gone his way. So
I feel like he deserves it. And like I've said, I've done like a little list for all the events. I've got Evan winning the loading with Paul Smith just behind him. I've got Trey winning the deadlift with Evan just behind him. I've got Trey winning the log with Evan just behind him. I've got Evan winning the Conan's wheel with Paul just behind him. And I've got Trey winning the sack toss with Evan just behind him. But I feel like no matter what, I'd rather see Evan on the end of a Atlas Stone than what I would Trey. But at the same time, Evan isn't a bad stone lifter either. That's the thing.
Oh, yeah.
He's a stone lifter himself. What about
Mr. Melstead himself?
So,
you know,
this is a massive problem we've got, right? I feel like Evan or Trey need to fuck up for Ethor to get him. But Ethor is another one. If you are not on form, he will well and truly kick you up the arse because of it. So he is one there. But I also think Paul could be that man with these events. I think Paul could do a bit of damage, you know. I'm not underestimating him in this group at all. Ethor's amazing. I just feel like Evan and Trey are proven champions. I don't mean amazing strongmen. They've been champions.
Yeah.
And they've got all the tools. And I feel like we're robbing ourselves of 2 amazing athletes if them 2 aren't in the final.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit hard to see past them in this group.
I think it really is. But like I say, Ethor's proven himself to be a worthy competitor at World's Strongest Man in any other competition he does. But if them 2 aren't on form or they're making silly mistakes, Ethor Paul will capitalise on that.
Yeah, I think if Evan's luck doesn't change, then it opens up, and it's probably between Ethor and Paul in that stone off.
And like if Ethor gets you in, Ethor's a great stone as well. You know what I mean? So if he got you in the stone, say every time it was Evan and Ethor on the stone off, I probably wouldn't be able to call it. But if it's anyone else with Trey and a stone off,
Yeah,
and I think Evan knows that as well. So I think he'll go balls out for the win. And then I think Trey's in the exact same position as Tom, where he'll go, oh, it's out the stones. I do this in my sleep. And that's not even overconfidence. That's actually just knowing their ability on it.
Yeah.
It's theirs, isn't it?
Yeah.
Theirs, you know what I mean?
If you've got that tool there to use, then you're going to use it, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? It's
like Lionel Messi kicking a football, isn't it? It's what he does, you know what I mean? And lifting Atlas stones to Trey is his thing. So, I think that was my easiest group to decide. Not that it was very easy, but I feel like Evan and Trey are the recognisable winners in that group.
Yeah, they jumped off the page as soon as the group was announced. I was like, yeah, you know, and I tried to be objective and look at the other athletes and kind of consider their strengths and weaknesses, but I came back to my initial kind of thought process was Evan and Trey to go through.
My romantic side of my character is that Mark smashes it, wins the group.
Oh, listen,
goes
wouldn't
through.
we all of that? Wouldn't we all of that? The problem is, if you get a strongman competition now without an overhead in it, Mark's right up there.
Yeah.
It's just the overhead just costs too much points. That's the only thing, and I'm not. That's not me being nasty, because Mark's an absolutely great person, great guy. His loading will be on point. His corners will be absolutely on point as well. You know what I mean? You never even know. On the deadlift, he might just bang out the bag. You never know. It's Mark. But like you say, just the log costs too many points and that to get in that position. Maybe with the likes of Paul and Ethos sniffing about as well. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's the thing. It's just I just think there's too many points to be lost from the log for Mark on that, and I hate saying it as well.
Yeah, I think all of us from a kind of, you know, heart perspective would want Mark to get through. I mean, let's 57 years old. Come on, you know what I mean? Even be at World's Strongest Man at 57 is absolutely mental.
Being able,
you know,
to wipe your own ass at that age is like a goal in life. Never mind doing World's Strongest Man for the 18th time.
It's bad. Yeah.
Mate, I'm 47. I can barely tie my own shoelaces.
There needs to be some kind of like new style Hall of Fame. We need a Hall of Fame, like an actual. I know there was something a few years ago on that, and I think Magnus Samuelsson, Sven Carlson, Marius are in it. But there needs to be like this new SBD Strongman Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? And a Mark needs to be #1 in there straight away on the top and go, this is what a strongman is. Sometimes strongman, right? Obviously, we have our champions. We have our absolutely amazing people who've been in strongman. We've got the Shaws, the Thors, the Halls, the Magnus for Magnus. For ages about all these amazing champions. But for me, longevity, professionalism, someone who's been around the block, someone who's experienced it all, someone who's been all around the world. Mark is that person who you look at and you go, that's a strong man. And he's a perfect example to give to like a kid or anyone who wants to do strongman of what a perfect sort of example is. That's the man.
Yeah, longevity, staying humble, just doing the work. Yeah, never getting outside of his box.
Yeah, every bit of credit he gets that, man.
Yeah,
I mean, the way to look at it, I mean, I agree with everything that's been said. The way to look at it is, and this gives some perspective, Mark Felix would have been the inspiration for some people to get into strongman, who have got in and got out, and Mark is still going.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely, mate.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's wild, isn't it? So, like, when Mark started, Mark's first World's Strongest Man, I'd have been, like, 13. You know what I mean? Mental, isn't it?
It's insanity.
That secondary skill.
Crazy, yeah.
I mean, he was competing when it was black and white.
Yeah, mate. It's
movies.
Was it Odd Hogan had the record before it for All My World's Strongest Man, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He's a good guy as well, you know. He's a really nice guy.
Yeah.
He loves it. Yeah, he's fucking mint, man. But I'll be honest with you, he deserves everything he gets. He deserves everything in this world, and he still works full time as well.
Yeah, he's got past. Yeah. Well, massive respect to him. I think everyone in the industry watches it, whatever, has nothing but, you know, that respect for Mark, you know, for what he's achieved and how long his longevity as much as anything. So, right, I think we've been through all the 5 groups now. I think probably we've all changed our mind since we last did our predictions.
We're
anyway.
not talking about Group 3 ever again.
No.
So what the plan is that we'll stick another one of these in on the rest day between the groups and the final, so we can look at how crap we were at what our predictions were like, and also then talk about what we think is going to go on the final.
It's called the Apology
Yeah.
Podcast.
The humble podcast.
Yeah, we know nothing podcast.
Yeah. We've all retired and we're all playing darts now.
Yeah. So, but look, I mean, we got 5 minutes before I think the first event is due to start. So thanks very much, guys. Massive thank you for getting this in the middle of your day. I appreciate everyone's busy. Hopefully everyone enjoyed it. We'll see you all on the rest day to check out how we did. And just thanks very much, guys. And we'll close it.
Bye, everyone.
Cheers.
See you later. Cheers, everyone. Bye.